Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session number 2, looking at Promos and Cassandra as divided into 2 comical discourses. We have dived into part 1. It is in 2 comical discourses, and part 1 we are about 2/3 of the way through. We're just about to do the final scene of what's Act 3, and we're going to dive into Act 4 onwards after that, and then we're going to crashing into Part 2. It's an interesting question about how we should think about this play as a 2-part thing or just something with really lengthily extended interval. To continue our journey through this play, which touches on themes of sexual exploitation, and just be warned, there may be descriptions of or intimations of things to do with sexual violence as well, and other unpleasantnesses may appear in this comical discourse, and there's all sorts of interesting questions about tone, which we may or may not be getting into today, but to explore further into Promos and Cassandra, reading hopefully today Cassandra, Messenger, Bruno, and the King is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading hopefully Phallax, Grimball, Second Man, and Second Poor Citizen is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, I'm a historian, and I'm in Hull.
Reading Andrugio, Beadle, Boy, Mayor, and Crier today. Crier today is...
Hi, I'm Arrogant. I shall try to cry as loud as I can.
Reading Promos, Dowson, and Apio today is...
Hi, I'm Lois, a retired academic in London.
Reading Rosko and Officer today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Dalia, Rowke, Jailer, and Ulrico today is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I live in the northwestern United States.
And reading Polina, First Man, First Poor Citizen, and all of the choir is...
Rachael, Nicole, actor in New Jersey.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and jumping in when I've forgotten to give someone a part, or when I've given everybody the same part, which sometimes happens. Without further ado, we're going to rejoin Cassandra in Act 3, Scene 7. The plot has been taking a darker turn. We've had 2 scenes of people being moved in the direction of doing things that they do not necessarily want to do. And in Act 3, Scene 7, Cassandra enters apparelled like a page, and that, considering what we found out yesterday, is not a good sign. So Act 3, Scene 7, in Part 1, Cassandra apparelled like a page.
Unhappy wretch, I blush myself to see, apparelled thus monstrous to my kind. But oh, my weeds will with my fault agree, when I have pleased lewd Promos' fleshly mind. What shall I do? Go proffer what he sought? Or on more suit shall I give my consent? The best is sure, since this must needs be wrought. I go and show, need makes me to his bent. My floods of tears from true intent which flow, may quench his lust or ope his muzzled iron. To see that I deserve to be his wife, though now constrained to be his concubine, but so, or no, I must the vent ere give. No danger fears the wight, pricked forth by need, and thus like one more glad to die than live, I forward set, God grant me well to speed.
And exit Cassandra. Part 1, Act 4, Scene 1. We have Dalia entering. That's Lamia's maid, and she's going to market.
With my mistress the world is changed well. She feared of late of whipping cheer to smell, and now both gallant, fresh, and gay, who in Julio flaunts it out like Lamia. A lucky friend, yea, one that beareth sway, is now become a prop of such a stay to her good name, as who is he dare say that Lamia doth offend. Now, anyway, this her good friend will be her guest this night, and that he may in his welcome delight, I market I in haste, am sent to buy the best cheer that I fasten on my eye.
And their exit, Dalia. Part 1, Act 4, Scene 2. Promos enters alone.
By proof I find, no reason cools desire. Cassandra's suit sufficed to remove my lewd request, but contrary, the fire her tears inflamed of lust and filthy love. And having thus the conquest in my hands, no prayer served to work restraint in me, but needs I would untie the precious bands of this fair dame's spotless virginity. The spoil was sweet, and won even as I would, and yet ungained till I had given my troth to marry her, and that her brother should be free from death, all which I bound with oath. It resteth now, unless I wrong her much, I keep my vow. And shall Andrugio live? Such grace would me with unindifferency touch, to pardon him that did commit a rape. To set him free, I to Cassandra swore, but no man else is privy to the same, and rage of love for 1,000 oaths will nil spare, more than are kept when gotten is the game. Well, what I said, then lover-like I said, now reason says, unto thy credit look. And having well the circumstances weighed, I find I must unswear the oath I took. But double wrong I so should do Cassandra. No force for that. My might commandeth right. Her privy man, her open cries will stay, or if not so, my frowning will her fright, and thus shall rule, conceal my filthy deed. Now, forthwith I will to the jailer send, that secretly Andrugio he behead, whose head he shall with these same words commend.
And here we have noted that we've got a gap in the text, though I'm now just having a quick look around, which I probably should have done earlier, and nobody else seems to mention that. So I'm wondering if the version of the text I'm looking from simply is one that has a missing page, that there might, however, be other text available elsewhere. I'm going to have to check that for next session, so in case there isn't a gap here and that this is just me cocking up. However, we will briefly pause there because we've had 3 speeches filling in a certain amount of detail of stuff going on. Thoughts from the room about these 3 speeches, what they've set up for us. Elizabeth, then Eric, then Rachael.
I just wanted to say the text has just become so compelling. It was very interesting and intriguing from the beginning, but it's just become very, very compelling. The plot has really thickened here.
Eric?
I was going to say that, like, because we usually talk about how we would stage something and that kind of thing, and I'm thinking, because, like, usually when something happens off stage, we want to put it on stage, like, sort of as a dumb show and stuff, but I'm thinking that in this case, Promos' speech where he describes, the whole restraint thing, it makes it stronger if you don't have the imagery, I think. I don't know, because then it kind of, just underlines what he's done.
Yes, I mean, I think we're in a situation where we're quite glad not to be having a visual reminder of what's been going on in between these speeches. That there's a huge amount of time is passing between these various entrances and exits here. Rachael.
No, I mean, because of the way Promos is referring to, what happened with Andrugio and his, calling what happened with him a rape, I feel like that casts doubt, like, on, the audience or the reader or even the production to choose, what really happened with that situation. Even though I know Cassandra and Andrugio, say different. I think that just adds another layer to this. And I wonder if characters that are supposed to, like, foil each other are more similar, or it's supposed to blur that, like, line. Yeah.
Helen.
Yeah, in all three speeches, evil is triumphing. I mean, they're a matched set. It would be nice to do them. One comes out, and then the other, and then the third, and just says to the audience, this is the reality of our life.
Lynn.
Yeah, I love that observation that each of these speeches sort of reveals the moral corruption in this society. But it's also interesting that the tones are so different, that Cassandra is sort of in despair and distress because she's embarrassed to be dressed like a man in the first place, and she's about to do something that she feels shame about. And Dalia's just like, I'm off to market to buy some yummy food for my new master, basically, my mistress's new patron. Life's good. And then Promos, who has this is probably quite conflicted about, I've done this thing and I should really keep my promise, but what I was going to say originally is like, I'm not sure I buy his excuse that it's going to look bad. My credit will be my credibility, my reputation will be compromised if I pardon Andrugio. Really? But as Rachael says, maybe Andrugio's act was not as consensual as we have been assuming it is. Very murky.
Lois.
Yeah, no, I think that speech particularly is one of the ones that the printer was referring to as kind of praising and blaming at the same time. I mean, really sort of difficult to get because it certainly is. He's obviously talking himself into something, I think, with that idea, and even calling Claudio's action a rape, I think, is putting it pretty strongly. Also, there's an awful lot of suspense there. I mean, Cassandra comes on and says she's really going to try to plead like mad with Promos not to do what he said he was going to do, and we don't really find out until we work our way through his speech, and he starts out by saying that nothing can resist passion, but then he says she sort of was pleading, and then he finally says, but I didn't yield to her, I did exactly what I intended to do. I mean, it kind of takes you through by steps there, and there are quite a lot of different steps in his thought. In fact, it must be one of the more complicated bits of thinking aloud that anybody's written up to this point, I think.
Other thoughts before we move on? Helen, then Eric, and Elizabeth.
Yes, I had this thought before Lois started speaking, and she's given me an awful lot to think about, but nevertheless I shall say my first trite thought, which that it is difficult if you marry someone to then execute your new brother-in-law in any society.
Yeah.
It's generally not what you do.
This is true. It makes some awkward dinner time conversation. Eric.
I was going to say that sort of because legally, I mean, this guy's a judge, so he would know the definition of rape and stuff. But then I don't know what the definition was back then, as in terms of sort of what's called because obviously nowadays we'd see this as non-consensual because she's coerced into it, but I don't know, it's just interesting to think about because, for example, I read that in ancient Greece there was it was only men that could rape a woman. It couldn't be the other way around because of the way the law was written, whereas now, and I don't know, in the Middle Ages, I don't know what the law was like in order for a definition of rape to be, for him to go, yeah, no, I'm not a rapist. I didn't, she consented, it's fine, kind of thing. But I don't know if he's saying that sort of console himself or console the audience, kind of.
Helen, were you responding to that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I think it would be a mistake to think that Promos is a lawyer. He's a judge, because he's the regent of the city,
Yeah.
not because he's a lawyer.
Okay, so he doesn't know the law as such.
Well, I mean, no more than most people knew the law. But no, that was it. I mean, rape has had a lot of definitions over the years, and it mostly means what people want it to mean.
Elizabeth, then Rachael, then Alan, and then we do need to move on.
Just speaking to what Helen and Eric have just said, Eric was talking about the consolation, almost like a consolation of the audience and the consoling of himself by Promos. I think, yeah, Promos. And I was thinking about the decision to behead Andrugio. And I was thinking about the use of the crime of rape to almost justify that beheading, and also to do that beheading in secret. I was wondering if there was not some sort of legal ramifications of that, like that he would not have to go through the legal constraints to but to elevate the sentence of Andrugio from hanging to beheading. So it just it's almost as though that Promos is using rape as a justification to behead Andrugio secretly. And that's why he's affixing this crime to him. Because before it was just lewdness, wasn't it? But now it's rape.
Rachael, then Alan.
No, it's kind of what Elizabeth was saying, that like how I was saying before, that he's casting doubt with us as to what the nature of this crime actually was. That, you know, him being the judge, he has the final legal say, and he's the one that really determines it, no matter, I guess, what anybody thinks. I don't know. He's the one that creates reality in the play and legally, and gives it a real, I guess, legal definition, even if he doesn't know the law, just because he's the one that gets to pass the sentence or proclaim it.
And Alan.
Yeah, I mean, the only point I would make on Helen's one of it would be bad form to execute your brother-in-law. I think at this point, he's only promised marriage. He hasn't actually gone through and signed the lines.
Okay, regardless of whether there is a missing page or not, we're going to go on to what is called Act 4, Scene 5, and we have the jailer of Andrugio speaking reasonably urgently to Andrugio.
Andrugio, as you love our lives, forthwith post you away. For God's sake, to no living friend your safety yet bewray. The proverb saith, two may keep counsel, if that one be gone.
Assure thyself, most faithful friend, I will be known to none. To none, alas, I see my escape yields me but small relief. Cassandra and Polina will destroy themselves with grief. Through thought that I am dead, they dead to live, what helpeth me?
Leave off these plaints of small avail. Thank God that you are free. For God it was, within my mind, that did your safety move. And that same God, no doubt, will work for your and their behoof.
Most faithful friend, I hope that God will work as you do say, and therefore to some place unknown I will myself convey. Jailer, farewell for thy good deed, I must remain thy debtor. In meanwhile yet receive this gift, till fortune sees the better.
God be with you, sir, but keep your money, your need you do not know.
I pass not now for fortune's threats, yet, yea, through her force she show, and therefore stick not to receive this small reward in part.
I will not, sure, such proffers leave, 'tis time you do depart.
Since so thou wilt, I will be gone, adieu till fortune smile.
And exit Andrugio.
Sir, fare you well. I will not fail to pray for you the while. Well, I am glad that I have sent him gone, for by my faith I live in perilous fear. And yet God wot, to see his bitter moan when he should die would force a man forbear from harming him, if pity might bear sway. But see how God hath wrought for his safety. A dead man's head that suffered the other day makes him thought dead throughout the city. Such a just, good, and righted is God is he.
Righteous.
Although a while he let the wicked reign, yet he relieves the wretch in misery, and in his pride he throws the tyrant down. I use these words upon this only thought, that Promos long his rod cannot escape, who hath in thought a wilful murder wrought, who hath in act performed a wicked rape. God's will be done, who well Andrugio speed. Once well, I hope, to hear of his good luck. For God, thou knowest, my conscience did this deed, and no desire of any worldly muck.
And exit the jailer, having sprung Andrugio. But we're going to go straight on to Act 4, Scene 6. Dalia from Market enters. And just change your hat and go for it.
In good sooth, I fear I shall be shent. It is so long since I to market went. But trust me, wildfowl are so costly dear, especially woodcocks, out of reason dear, that this hour I have the market bet to drive a bargain to my most profit. And in the inn I chanced to light on one, hit me as pat as a pudding Pope Joan. Other market maids paid down for their meat, but that I have bought on my score is set. Well, fair credit when money runneth low, yet marry yet butchers the which do credit so. Alas, as much good meat as they kill may perchance be glad and fain at herring cobs to dance. What force I that every man shift for one, for if I starve, let none my fortune moan.
And she feigns to go out, but she doesn't go out because enter Grimball and the note for Act 4, Scene 7. Grimball, Dalia, either of them a basket.
Soft, Dalia, a word with you, I pray.
What, friend Grimball, welcome as I may say.
Say'st thou me so, then kiss me for acquaintance.
If I like your manhood, I may do so perchance.
And she feigns to look in his basket.
Bait me an ass, quoth Bolton. Tush your mind, I know.
Sir, you would, belike, let my cock sparrows go. I warrant thee, Grimball.
She takes out a white pudding.
Lay off hands, Dalia. You poke me if you got my pudding away.
Nay, good sweet honey, Grimball, this pudding give me.
Ich were as good as greet thee her, for she will hate, I see. Well, mine own good art root, freely I give thee this, upon condition that thou give me a kiss.
Nay, but first wash your lips with sweet water you shall.
Why, ich was right now for my pudding, honey sweet Grimball. Well, Dalia, you will flout so long till, though I say, with kindness you will cast a proper handsome man away. Wherefore, soot gunny, even a little spurt.
Lay off hands, sir.
Good, do not bite, for ich mean thee no hurt. Come off, pig's knee, prefer me not a jot.
What would the good fool have?
Why, you what? Hark, in your ear.
You shall command, so proper a man ye are, that for your sake I will not stick to wear a blue cassock during my life, forsooth. Marry, for my sake, I would be very loath so goodly a handsome man should lose his head.
Nay, for my head care not a tinker's turd, for so God judge me at one bare word, I'll lose my death, yea, and my great brown cow. I love you so filthily, loy now.
Thou sayest valiantly. Now sing as well, too, and thou shalt quickly know what I mean to do.
Yes, by God's foot, to pleasure thee ich shall both sing, spring, fight, and play, the devil and all.
Oh, lustily.
And the song goes thusly. I don't know how much of this is song, but I'm assuming that most of it is.
Come smack me, I long for a smooch.
Go pack thee, thou filthy fine slouch.
Lord, how I love thee.
This cannot move me.
Way pretty pigs me, my heart and my honey.
Because, Goodman's hog's face, you were without money.
I lack money, I grant.
Then, Grimball, avaunt.
Some young sweetheart and feet come kiss me for love.
Crookshank, your jowl is too great such liking to move.
What mean you by this?
To leave thee, by guess.
First smack me, I die for a smooch.
Go pack thee, thou filthy fine slouch.
And exit Dalia.
Dalia, art thou gone and wilt serve me so? Oh God, I'm ready to ray myself for woe. Oh, be valiant, Grimball. Kill thyself, man. Nay, humble lady, I will not by St. Anne. Ich will have beard, my great grandsir say. Maid will say nay, and take it so she may. Therefore, chill to Mistress Lamia with these puddings and cock sparrows by and by. And in the dark again, ich will her try.
And exit Grimball. So, yes, we have two sort of competing scenes here. I have located the missing page, by the way. I will endeavour to have something for you by the end of the session so that we can go back to the bit we've missed. What we missed was a couple of ending lines from Promos, from his speech. Cassandra makes a speech, and then we have the opening gambit of the jailer coming in, and the jailer scene that we've just done. Jailer's holding a head. Somebody else's head. That's how he fakes the death of Andrugio so that he can escape. So just to fill you in there, but I will endeavour to transcribe a page live this session. I'm going to have a go. Thoughts, however, about the scenes that we've just had. We've just had the, say, jailer and Andrugio. Interesting question about not taking money from him, and then this back and forth with a white pudding. That presents all sorts of interesting possibilities. Rachael.
This scene, I think this scene is just amazing. In the context of it, because at first it feels like it's playing like a comedy, and then at the end it just gets so, with Grimball's last thing, it's just so grim, and just the parallels that it has in the rest of the play, and this street harassment, and that it's something, equating something as small as this, like, in the way that they say boys will be boys type thing. When you see, I guess, young children bullying each other, hitting little girls, to something as grim as the rest of this, it feels like this is being equated with the rest of this, or being used to, I don't know, comedy it up, but make the audience super uncomfortable.
Other thoughts from the room? Who wants to leap in on that tonal question? Because it's interesting how it is, again, yes, it is a scene that's paralleling other stuff, but it's playing things on a different tonal level, and where we're supposed to land with that. Alan?
I think actually the purpose of that sequence is not as heavy as Rachel's suggesting, although one can read that into the text if one wants. I think it's there as a bit of almost low comedy, and you can certainly see if they're playing around with a white pudding, in the hands of two comic performers, that would wake up some of the audience who might be going, oh God, this is a bit bloody boring and moralistic. What we come here for is the cock gags.
Yes. Other thoughts? Elizabeth?
Yes, just speaking to what Alan was saying, I think Alan's right. I think the comedic action is this is one of the first times in the play we've seen a really comedic scene like this, with two actors playing against each other. I really love the concept of the white pudding, and everything about Dalia seems to be about going to market. And I think that's something that the audience at the time would have really known a lot about. I also really liked Andrugio's escape. I wasn't expecting him to get off so lightly, but I think we're rooting for him at this point in the text, which is problematic because we don't know whether he's done what he's been accused of, and if he's just got away with his crime.
Well, so we get the impression that he's definitely done some it's just the question of how consensual it is, because we suddenly have the word rape turning up quite a lot where we didn't yesterday. We suddenly have all these things in the works. Helen,
in my usual way of spending my entire life looking at verse forms, as I seem to be doing, there is a very amazing transition by the jailer from 14ers in his conversation with Andrugio to pentameters when he's soliloquizing. And it was very striking and quite unusual. I mean, for someone in the same speech to change so violently between the two types I haven't seen before. And the other thing was that I wasn't quite on top of how Dalia is managing to get credit from all these tradesmen. Is she sort of giving them an advance, if you see what I mean? Because she's...
I'll go to Lynn, then Lois on that one.
My guess is that it's kind of an open secret that Lamia's new patron is Phallax, who is close to Promos. So Phallax is a person of some importance and influence just because he's in the orbit of the current sort of substitute head of state, the guy with the keys to the city. So she's got an important patron, so her maid can get credit at the market. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Lois.
Well, but she does also imply that these guys are stupid to trust her. I mean, that they may never get paid, and they could end up broke if they keep letting people go on credit. So it's a bit of each, I think. I mean, I'm sure she is relying on Phallax, and after all, they're getting this food for him anyway to celebrate. Yeah, that's the sort of dark tone of the play, the sort of cynicism, everyone for himself, which is sort of what she's saying. There's a real surprising contrast with the jailer, who turns out to be totally altruistic and, said, no, keep your money, you might need it, and so on. Wow. I mean, that's a really surprising thing in this play.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to let the next few scenes run into each other, almost to the end of the act, possibly, though I may pause before we get quite to the end of the play itself, running through Act 5. I'm going to ask Lois, actually, if you could read the various sort of stage directions, scene intimations, as it were, for me, while I'm somewhat distracted. I'm still here and I am still listening. But I just want to let these scenes run into each other for a bit before I interject. So I think, Lois, you haven't got anything directly to say for a little bit, so if you could read the Act 5, etc. kind of stuff, that would be really helpful. Okay. So take it away, Lois.
Right. Act 5, Scene 1. Phallax enters alone.
I marvel much. What worketh so my Lord Promos' unrest? He fares as if 1,000 devils were gnawing at his breast. There is sure some worm of grief that doth his conscience nip. For since Andrugio lost his head, he hath hung down the lip. And truth to say, his fault is such as well may grieve his mind. The devil himself could not have used a practice more unkind. This is once. I love a woman for my life, as well as be, but... fair dames, with her that loves me, I deal well with, trust me. Well, leave I now my lord promise his own deeds to answer. Lamia, I know, looks and double looks when I come to supper. I thought as much. See, to seek me, here comes her April squire.
Apple Squire, which is
Apple squire.
him,
So
in
it
other
is.
words, yeah. Okay, Act 5, Scene 2, enter Rosko.
Oh, that I could find Master Phallax. The meat burns at the fire. And by your leave, Andrugio's death does make my mistress sweat.
How now, Rosko?
It's you, sir. My mistress doth entreat that with all speed your worship will come away to supper. The meat and all is ready to set upon the board, sir.
Gramercy for thy pains. I was even coming to her.
You are the welcomest man alive to her, I know. And trust me, at your commandment runneth poor Rosko.
It is honestly said. But now tell me, what quality hast that I may use thee?
I am a barber, and when you please, sir, call and spare not for a cast of rose water.
But hear me, canst thou heal a green wound well?
Yea, green and old.
Then thy best were to dwell in some usual place or street, where through phrase thou mayst be set a work with wounds always.
I thank my mistress, I have my hands full to trim gentlemen of her acquaintance. And I trust, sir, that if your worship chance to have the need of my help, I shall earn your money before another.
That thou shalt truly. But, sirrah, where dwells Lamia?
Even here, sir. Enter, I pray.
That I will sure, if that my way be clear.
Yes, sir. Her doors be open all the year.
Oh, they go out. Act 5, Scene 3. Polina, the maid that Andrugio loved, in a blue gown.
Polina cursed, what dame alive hath cause of grief like thee, who won by love hast yield the spoil of thy virginity, and he for to repair thy fame to marry thee that vowed is done to death for first offense, the second mends not loud. Great shame redounds to thee, O love, in leaving us in thrall. Andrugio and Polina both in honoring thee did fall. Thou so didst witch our wits, as we from reason strayed quite. Provoked by thee, we did refuse no vantage of delight. Delight, what did I say? Nay, death by rash and foul abuse. Alas, I shame to tell thus much, though love do work excuse, so that fair dames from such consent my accidents of barm. Forewarneth you to keep aloof, though love your hearts do arm. But, Polina, whether runs thy words into advice, when others' harms, enforced by love, could never make thee wise? The cause is plain, for that in love no reason stands instead, and reason is the only mean that other harms we dread. Then that the world hereafter may to love infer my ill, Andrugio's tomb with daily tears Polina worship will. And furthermore I vow, whilst life in me doth foster breath, no one shall vaunt of conquered love by my Andrugio's death. These shameful weeds which forced I worb that men my fault may know, whilst that I live, shall show I mourn for my Andrugio. I will not bid the sharp assaults from sugared words I sent. I will not trust to careless oaths which often win consent. I will cut off occasions all which hope of mirth may move. With ceaseless tears I'll quench each cause that kindleth the coals of love. And thus till death Polina will estrange herself from joy, Andrugio, to reward thy love which did thy life destroy.
She goes out and Rosko is left alone.
Ah, sir, in faith, the case is altered quite. My mistress late that lived in wretched plight, bids care adieu and every cause of woe. The fee is fled, which made her sorrow so. Must Phallax so under props her fame, as none for life dare now her lewdness blame. I fear, nay hope, she hath bewitched him so, as half his bribes unto her share will go. No force for that, who others doth deceive, deserves himself like measure to receive. Well, leave I Lamia for herself to pray, better than I can show who knows the way. It stands on me for my poor soul to shift, and I have found a help at a dead lift. My old friend Grimball's purse with pence is full, and if I empty it not, Dalia will. The slavering fool, what he can rap and rend, he loves her so, upon the filth will spend. But by your leave, I'll bar her of this match. My net and all is set, the fool to catch. Forsooth, before his amorous suit he move, he must be trimmed to make her more to love. And in good sooth, the world shall hardly fall, but that he shall be washed, polled, shaved, and all. And see the luck, the fool is fast, I know, in that with Rowke he doth so sadly go.
So Act 5, Scene 5, and enter Grimball and Rowke.
God's spores, as say'st when, somewhat handsome sham. I' faith she will come off for very shame.
Yea, without a doubt, I swear by Saint Anne, myself loves you, you are so clean a young man.
Nay, thou wilt say so when my face is fair washed.
Good luck a God's name, the woodcock is mashed.
And who barbs ye, Grimball?
A dapper knave, one Rosko.
Well, Leatherface, we shall have your ass ere you go.
I know him not. Is he a deft barber?
Oh, yea, why, he's Mistress Lamia's Paula. And look, sirrah, yen is little knave. How does, Rosko?
Oh, my eyesight, God save. Oh, Grimball, welcome. Sit you down here, boy.
Boy comes in. Is there a boy?
None?
Bay leaves in warm water. Quick, bring clean gear.
Straight.
As thou saidst, Grimball, this is a feat knave indeed.
How say, sir? Ointments for a scab do you need?
Scab, Scurvy Jack, I'll set you to work, sir.
Nay, Gog's foot, good now. No more of this stir.
In faith, Barber, I will pick your teeth straight.
Nay, to pick my purse I fear thou dost wait.
Yea, Gog's heart.
Nay, Gog's foot.
Now come, ruffian.
Leave if you be men. Ye me now be friends, and by my troth, you'll spend a whole quart of ale on you both.
Well, Mass Grimball, I little thought I was. You would have brought a knave to vie me thus.
Why, know'st not him? Why, 'tis lusty Rowke.
Strong thief, I warrant him by his look.
Go to, Barber, no more, lest copper you catch.
What, will give thy nose away? Beware that match, for she see no copper, unless be there.
Boy brings water.
Master, here's delicate water and clean gear.
Well, to quiet my house and for Grimball's sake, if it pleases you as friends, we hands will shake.
Aye, do so.
And for his sake, I agree.
Well then, that we may drink straightways, wash me.
Good sir, here's water as sweet as a rose. Now whiles I wash, your eyes hard you must close.
Thus?
Harder yet.
Oh, thus?
Yea, marry so. Now, sirrah, you know what you have to do.
Rowke cuts Grimball's purse.
Wink hard, Grimball.
Yea, I shall.
Here's a toothpick and all.
He goes out rapidly.
Part then till I call. Very well, sir, your face is gaily clean. Were your teeth now picked, you may kiss a queen.
Say'st thou me so? Good, now dispatch and away. I'll even fizzle till I smooch Dalia.
Oh, do you so? I'm right glad you tell. I else had thought that your teeth did smell.
Oh, Lord. Gog's foot. You picked me to the quick.
Quiet yourself. Your teeth are furred thick.
Oh, no more. Oh, God, I spattle blood.
I've done. Spit out. This doth you much good. Boy,
Anon.
bring the drink in the porringer to gargles his teeth.
It's here, sir.
Goes out again.
Wash your teeth with this, good Master Grimball.
Oh, I'm poisoned. Oh, it's a bitter gall.
Eat these comforts to sweeten your mouth withal.
Oh, yea, marry, sir. These are gay sugared gear.
Their sweetness straight will make you stink, I fear.
Well, now, what must I pay that I were gone?
What you will.
Says me so. Oh, sham undone.
Oh, now, Grimball.
Oh, Lord, my purse is cut.
When? Where?
No, here.
Boy, let the door be shut. If it be here, we will straightway see. Where's he that came with you?
I cannot tell.
What is he?
I know not.
Where doth he dwell?
Oh, Lord, I cannot, I.
You have done well. This knave your pence in his pocket hath pursed. Let's seek him out.
Nay, hark, I must needs first. Oh, Lord, come sick, my belly aches. Do.
Thou lookest still. Well, I'll tell thee what to do. Since thou art so sick, straightways get thee home. To find this Jack, myself abroad will roam. The rather for thee played the knave with me.
I'm sick indeed, and therefore I thank thee.
I see sometimes the blind man hits a crow. He may thank me that he is plagued so.
Well, Dalia the lone, ich bear to thee hath made me Well, Dalia, the love I bear to thee hath made me sick, and picked my purse from me.
And he leaves.
Ah, is he gone? A fool company him. In good sooth, sir, this match fadge frim. Well, I will trudge to find my Telwy Rowke, to share the price that my device hath took.
Exit.
Exit, and there we'll pause. I just realised my sound's been on the whole time. I apologise for frantic tapping away on my keyboard. Bugger. Okay, so we've got a comedy barber scene. Sounds familiar. I'm sure we've had that before somewhere. Mm-hmm. I forget where. I'm hoping someone in the room can remind me. But we've definitely. I think we had something similar sort of business, but not quite somewhere else as well, and I can't remember where.
Somewhere in Lily. I think it's is it Endymion? There's a barber somewhere.
We have multiple barbers, so at some point I'm feeling a workshop to compare and contrast barber scenes. Yes. Alan.
All seems to have gone a bit panto at the moment. We've had two comedy scenes with Grimball as the comedy rustic, almost back to back. It's almost as if someone's, doing a screeching U-turn to try and keep the audience from leaving or throwing things.
Well, it's important to make sure the audience doesn't leave or throw things. I think but yeah, it's an interesting question of tone and what's it doing here, Eric.
I was going to say that it's sort of interesting to think of how much stage time this actually takes up compared to the previous bits, and compared to how much time Promos and Cassandra are on, who are actually the title characters. I don't know, it's an idea I'm throwing out there.
Lynn, then Alan.
So going back to the beginning of this little stretch that we just did, I think we've cleared up what the situation was between Andrugio and his lover, because that's Polina, and she is heartbroken that he's dead, and love made me do it. We were in love, and that's why we did this unwise thing. So and I'm going to wear this blue gown of penance for the rest of my life because the man I loved is dead. So I think that kind of clears up Andrugio's a situation that his lover is grieving for him, and talks about she did it for love. So yeah, that makes Promos's characterization of Andrugio's crime look quite disingenuous.
Alan.
Yeah, I think actually the comedy scenes must be played at pace to make them work, and that provides a nice variation in pace, because quite a lot of the rest of it is relatively slow paced. There's a lot going on, but the length of the speeches, whereas this is all fast double talk. I mean, you could see both this Barber scene and also the dialogue between Grimball and Dalia earlier as being, snappy lines, almost Marx Brothers comedy pacing, with lines almost tripping over each other.
Rachael, I think, and then Lois.
Oh no, to what Lynn was saying, that one speech with Promos, there's just so much there, I think, to dive into even more, especially now because we have Polina coming in and clearing that up, and so he's calling something that was consensual a rape, and making for himself, and justifying and saying that his rape is consensual. It's like he puts it on its head for himself. And then just this comedy scene of Grimball trying to, I don't know, dine and dash with this Barber, only with getting his tooth pulled. I don't know, it's funny. It's a nice little break from the rest of it.
Lois.
Yeah, just from the historical point of view, it's the first time I've come across a barber also cleaning someone's teeth. I mean, and doing it very much the way the dental hygienist does it now. I mean, the guy's talking about his furred teeth and so on. Lots of plaque there. We got to get it off. Just surprising to see it at this point.
Yes, something for the history of dentistry. Just a note going back to my ongoing quest to fill in that gap that we had earlier. Mentioning we hadn't seen that much of Cassandra lately. We have a little bit more. She has an additional speech and an additional scene. Before we go into the final speech of this act, I'm just going to read to you what I've transcribed. I'm not going to hand it out. But the earlier scene, having returned, shall we say, from her encounter with Promos earlier, she is given this speech, of which I say occasional words I'm not sure about. Fain would I, wretch, conceal the spoil of my virginity, but my guilt doth make me blush chaste virgins here to see. I monster now, no maid, no wife, have stooped to Promos' lust. The cause was neither suit nor tears could quench his wanton thirst. What cloak will soothe my crime, myself my conscience doth accuse, and shall Cassandra now be termed in common speech? Shall she, whose virtues bear the bell, be called a vicious dame? O cruel death, nay, hell to her, that was constrained to shame. Alas, few will give shift, I find, to save my brother's life. And faintly I through Promos' oaths do hope to be his wife. For lovers fear not how they street to win a lady fair, and having won what they did with for oaths no lady care. But be he instant of no, I joy Andrugio shall live. But I see a sight that doth my heart asunder rive. And that's the point the jailer comes in with the head and actually tells Cassandra that her brother's dead. having vaguely told the audience that it's all a lie. I haven't got round to transcribing the conversation with Cassandra and the jailer yet. I've just made a start on that. I might have it done by the end of the session. Fingers crossed. But yeah, there's a whole series of questions about what Cassandra is thinking there. That and the logic of what the play is asking and putting in her mouth there in terms of thoughts about her situation, having just slept with a man and having been put in a situation where she didn't really necessarily have much choice. I'm just going to let that land there for a moment while we go to Cassandra's final speech in this play, Act 5, Scene 6. So I've got to ask Cassandra to read the closing speech and also the closing song. I won't say Cassandra's song. You just put a little pause in there. You don't need to sing it, of course.
The heavy charge that nature binds me to, I have performed, engraved my brother is. Oh, would to God to ease my ceaseless woo, my wretched bones entombed were with his. But oh, in vain this bootless wish I use. I, poor, I must live in sorrow, joined with shame. And shall he live, that did us both abuse? And quench through rule the coals of just revenge? Oh, no, I will now hie me to the king, to whom I will recount my wretched state, lewd Promos' rape, my brother's death and all. And though with shame I made this tale relate, to prove that force enforced me to fall. When I have shown Lord Promos' foul misdeeds, this knife forthwith shall end my woe and shame, my gored heart, which at his feet then bleeds. To scourge his faults the king will more inflame. In deeds to do, that I in words pretend, I now advise my journey to the king. Yet ere I go, as swans sing at their end, in solemn song I mean my knell to ring. Sith fortune thwart doth cross my joys with care, sith that my bliss is changed to bale by fate, sith froward chance my days in woe doth wear, sith I, alas, must moan without a mate, I, wretch, have vowed to sing both day and night. O sorrow slay all motions of delight. Come, grisly grief, torment this heart of mine. Come, deep despair, and stop my loathed breath. Come, wretched woe, my thought of hope to pine. Come, cruel care, prefer my suit to death. Death, end my woe, which sing both day and night. O sorrow slay all motions of delight.
Exit, and thus ends part 1, or the interval, as we'd probably consider. This is where we'd put an interval if we were doing it today, because the two parts together are not excessively long in terms of it's not short, but if we can do it in 3 sessions, that's about what a standard play would be like. So yes, Cassandra, between those 2 speeches separated by comedy business with a barber, the one I did and the one that Elizabeth did just there, we've got a bit of a span of what the character is doing. Any thoughts from the room about this or part 1 in general? Lynn, then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I can't find what I'm looking for, but one character, the jailer or someone Phallax, I think it is, who says something about, ooh, that thing that Promos did, that wasn't good. So Cassandra has anxiety about her reputation. So this thing that went on between Cassandra and Promos is not particularly a secret? Is that what we're supposed to take from that? No, I don't know. I'm a little confused about that and the implications of that. Or maybe we're just not supposed to think about that.
Well, if it's there, then I think we legitimately can. I don't know if anyone has any additional thoughts on that, but we can keep it up in the air for the moment. Elizabeth.
Yes, Rob, I wondered if we were going to talk about the preamble now or at the end of the two plays, because there was a substantial amount of preamble at the beginning of the text.
Not quite yet, but we may do it at the end of the session if that feels there, because you're not here tomorrow, so we may do that. Any other thoughts about part one so far? I say so far, that we will come back to a bit of part one, which I apologise again for my general cock up there. We have a short scene left to encounter from earlier. Lois.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine them doing this without going straight on to part two. I mean, that is such a downer as a way to end a play, and also there's so much left up in the air anyway.
It's a real. I haven't quite got to grips whether that's how it was originally done or whether that's just how it's been presented for publication. We got plenty of plays that are designed to be performed over days but as a single dramatic unit, so maybe part one was one day and part two was the following day, rather than all at once, so that's not unreasonable. So yeah, especially as it's written out in 5 acts, but yeah, I genuinely don't know. There's a lot more digging to do there.
Yes. I mean, I could see if part one ended with the first speech we did today with Cassandra going in dressed as a page, that would end on a really nice note of suspense. What's going to happen? Will he yield to her pleas, etc.? And also it kind of covers the time lag because, well, of course, there's less of a time lag with the speech that you just read us because otherwise you've just got Promus's word for what happened, but in that speech you obviously get her word for it as well. And it's kind of nice that she does have that thing of, well, this is absolutely ghastly for me, but at least I've saved my brother's life. Oh my God, no, I haven't even done that,
Yes, it's a real shame that I've banjaxed what is actually quite a clever sequence of action. We do have, I suppose, here to end it on the possibility, I will now go to the king!
Yeah.
Which I suppose is how you hold it up in the air for the next part. Rachael.
No, because this is just because we've been reading, some of the, End Town and those other like morality plays, and this reminds me somewhat of the Mary plays, the Mary Magdalene and just, Mary, Jesus's mother, because we have like that, blue cloth that Polina's going around with. And I wonder if there's supposed to be some sort of moralistic parallel and talks of that because it has two women and there is some stuff with virginity, and if it's supposed to be some, I don't know, just iconic imagery that people would know, or would see, and might subconsciously bring some of those morality plays that they had seen to the forefront of their mind.
I think this was in the chat yesterday, wasn't there? Something about the kind of blue that would have been worn by penitent women, which would have been quite coarse cloth and probably very different from whatever the Virgin Mary wore, which I would imagine would be some really beautiful blue and a different sort of fabric.
But yeah, I do like the idea that it's sort of in conversation with things that are starting to go out or very on the way out sort of forms of drama at this time. That even if it's not an absolute, that those resonances may be pinging off interesting things in people's minds in the audience. Lynn, then Eric, and then we need to move into part two.
Yeah, as a one-time designer, I'm really interested in this question of the blue gown because the color blue was associated with Mary and with elevated figures like that. The blue pigment in paint was made with cobalt and was very expensive. It was more expensive to produce than like gold leaf, I've heard. So that very bright, intense cobalt blue that you see in medieval and Renaissance paintings is a very expensive pigment to produce, and it's reserved for characters like Mary. But it must have been a different blue that was the sign of penance, but that's very interesting. That there's the blue of the shamed woman, and then there's the blue of the virgin, not just a virgin, but like the virgin. So interesting that it's not the same exact color, but it's the same color name.
Eric.
I was gonna say that if you were making this for like a TV series, which you could imagine it as a sort of, you know, modern day TV series, you would totally not have the scene with Andrugio escaping just for suspense, and then, like, you know, obviously in a series you would mess up the timeline a bit, so you wouldn't have that scene till much later, or maybe even as a flashback, which is, I don't know, it's just, maybe that's just me, which yeah, it's quite interesting to think about it that way, in terms of, like, even in modern staging, would you keep it as linear as it is, or would you just sort of keep feeding the audience with, like, oh yeah, he's totally died, he died, oh wait, maybe there is hope, oh no, wait, no, there isn't.
Yeah, like the idea that later in the series there's a cold open where you're just lingering on someone carrying something and just watching his feet, and then it turns up and, oh no, he's alive. You know, and then you have the flashbacks and you see all the stuff. Yeah, I could go with that. I don't think that's what the dramatist here is trying to do, but I think you could play with
obviously
that.
Not, yeah.
Lois.
I think people feel really cheated when you do that. I mean, they have all these emotions and then they say, oh, it didn't happen after all. I mean, there's an 18th century version of the Duchess of Malfi, which works like that. You know, you have all the incredible pathos of the Duchess's death, apparently, and the children and everything. And then right at the end, you discover that Bossel has been a really good guy and he's hidden them all away and he brings them all out one after another. And they did this as a Red Not Dead thing and the audience was hooting. It was great.
Okay. We have to go. Oh, Elizabeth, very briefly.
Just very briefly, I was wondering about Andrugio, like, and just the concept of Andrugio coming back into the narrative, because he's obviously not dead. And I just was wondering, like, if he's coming back, how he's coming back, and what he's going to say, and what's going to happen to Cassandra.
Yeah, we have so many things. You know, is the king going to sort it all out, or is the king just as corrupt as his first minister? So many things. Part 2 to bring to tidy up, which we're going to go into now. So part 2, Act 1, Scene 1. Polina in a blue gown, shadowed with a black sarcenet, going to the temple to pray upon Andrugio's tomb. They've built him a tomb and everything.
Promise is debt, and I my vow have passed. Andrugio's tomb to wash with daily tears, which sacrifice, although God wot and waste, I will perform. My altar is of cares. A fuming sighs, my offering incense is. My piteous plaints instead of prayers are. Yea, would to God in penance of my miss, I with the rest my loathed life might share. But oh, in vain, I wish this welcomed end. Death is too slow to slay the wretched wight, and all too soon he doth his forces bend to wound their hearts which wallow in delight. Yet in my care still goes my passing bell, so oft as I Andrugio's death do mind, so oft as men with pointed fingers tell their friends my faults, which by my weeds they find. But oh, the cause which with death, which threats me most, I wish to die. I die through wretched woe. My dying heart desires to yield to the ghost. My traces strange, a present death foreshadow. But as the reed doth bow at every blast, to break the same when roughest storms lacks might, so wretched I with every woe do waste, yet care wants force to kill my heart outright. O gracious God, and is my guilt so great, as you the same with 1,000 deaths must wreak? You will it so, else care I could entreat, with half these woes my thread of life to break. But what mean'st thou, Polina, most accursed? To muse, why God, this penance joins thee too, whose correction, although we take at worst, to our great good he doth the same bestow. So that sith Greece cannot relieve my friend, sith scorching sighs my sorrows cannot dry, sith care himself lacks force my life to end. Sith still I live that every hour do die, sith mighty God appoints my penance so, in mournful song I will my penance show.
And she sings, takes a swig there, important to do so.
Amid my bale, the lightning joy that pining care doth bring, with patience cheer my heavy heart, as in my woes I sing. I know my guilt, I feel my scourge, my ease is death I see, and care I find by piecemeal wears my heart to set me free. O care, my comfort and refuge, fear not to work thy will. With patience I thy poor fibs bide, feed on my life thy fill. Thy appetite with sighs and tears I daily will procure, and wretched I will veil to death, throw when thou wilt thy lure.
And exit Polina. Part 2, Act 1, Scene 2. Enter a messenger from the king.
I have at length, though wary come in troth, obtained a sight of Julio's stately walls. A king's message cannot be done with sloth. Whom he bids go must run through mire and dirt. And I am sent to Lord Promos in post, to tell him that the king will see him straight. But much I fear that Promos needs not boast of any gain by his sovereign's recite. But hollow tongue of lavish speech beware, though subjects oft in princes' meaning pry, they must their words and not their minds declare, unto which course I will my tongue apply. Lord Promos shall my prince's coming know, my prince himself the cause thereof shall show.
And exit the messenger, Act 1, Scene 3. We see Rosko, Lamia's man.
Is it possible that my mistress Lamia, over the shoes, should be in love with Phallax? Why, by Jess, as she herself doth say, pure good joy, her heart doth melt like wax. And this, I'm sure, every hour they themselves by their sweet selves or by their letters greet. But the sport is to see the loving elves, while together when they in secret meet. She lowers, he laughs, she sighs through pure love, the strumpets and crocodile tears alike. Nay, nay, says he, good pugs, no more of this. Well, says she, and weeps, my grief you do not prove. Then straight this storm is cheered with a kiss. And then are both sides 3 words and a smooch. Within her ear, then whispereth this slouch. And by the way he stumbleth on her lips. Thus either strives most loving signs to show. Much good it do them, saith they are both content. Once, I'm sure, how so the game doth go. I have no liking, cause their liking to repent. I seldom do between the message bear, but that I have an item in the hand. Well, I must trudge to do a certain chore, which, take I time, cock for my gain doth stand.
And Act 1, Scene 4, we're going to encounter Phallax and Dowson, a carpenter.
Dispatch, Dowson, up with the frame quickly. So space your rooms as the 9 worthies may be so installed as best may please the eye.
Very good, I shall.
Nay, soft Dawson, stay. Let your man at St. Anne's Cross out of hand erect a stage, that the waits in sight may stand.
Will you aught else?
Soft a while, let me see. On Jesus' gate the full virtues, I trow, appointed are to stand.
Aye, sir, they are so.
Well then, about your charge, I will foresee the consort of music, well placed to be.
Go on, sir.
And exit Dowson, and here we have the Beadle of the tailors, approaching Phallax.
Here you, Master Phallax, the wardens of the merchant tailors are, where with themselves they shall their pageant place.
With what strange shows do they their pageants graces?
They've Hercules of monsters conquering, have great giants in a forest fighting, with lions, bears, wolves, apes, foxes, and greys, and bears, and, rocks, and so on. There are many more.
Oh, wondrous phrase. Marry, sir, since they are provided thus, out of their ways, God keep Master Pendiculus.
You are pleasant, sir, but with speed I pray you answer me. I was charged not to stay.
Because I know you have all things current, they shall stand where they shall no viewers want. How say you to the end of Duck Alley?
There all the beggars in the town will be.
Oh, most attendance is where beggars are. Farewell, away.
I will your will declare.
And exit Act 1, Scene 6. Phallax is approached by two men apparelled like green men at the mayor's feast, with clubs of firework.
I'm about to speak to myself. Is this a problem?
That's fine. Who are you speaking to?
Phallax, and I'm also second man.
I'll be second man. That'll be fine.
This gear fadgeth now that these fellows peer. Friend, where wait you?
In Jesus' street to keep a passage clear, that the king and his train may pass with ease.
Ah, very good.
Aught else, sir, do you please?
No. About your charge.
We are gone.
We are gone. And they exit.
Ah, sir, here is short knowledge to entertain a king. But quid non pecunia. Yea, at a day's warning. The king in provision that thought to take us tardy, as if we had a year been warned, shall by his welcome see. I have but yet one chore to do, but soft, here is Rosko. I must needs deliver him a message before I go.
And Act 1, Scene 7, enter Rosko.
I says, I have noble news for Lamia.
Nay, soft friend Rosko, take mine in your way.
Oh, Master Phallax. Hoist, I char you mercy.
Rosko, with speed, tell thy mistress from me, the king straightways will come to the city, in whose train there is a company. Within her house with more shall merry be. Therefore, for my sake, will her to foresee to welcome them, that nothing wanting be. This is all I will, for want of leisure.
And exit Phallax.
I will not fail, sir, to show your pleasure. Marry, in faith, these news will jump with the rest. They shall be welcome and fair of the best. But although they well fill their bodies thus, their purses will be driven to a nonplus. No force of wit, each pleasure hath his pain. Better the purse than the body starved of wane. Well, I will trudge, my welcome news to tell, and then abroad, good company to spell.
And exit Rosko. And there we'll pause, because yes, we've suddenly got the king's coming back, so suddenly we've got all this specific pageantry. This is normally the kind of stuff we do in the evenings. So yes, we've got merchant tailors. We've got people. We've got as part of this presentation of 9 worthies. We've also got lots of. Hercules is going to fight monsters, giants, lions, bears, wolves, apes. I liked the way Eric did the just so, all we've got in the script is etc. Assuming that the Beadle just extemporizes as many different animals as is available. I particularly like the fact they go to Duck Alley. And of course we've got green men, so they're basically whifflers. So they're the crowd control with clubs of fireworks. So if necessary, they've got long sticks which can be turned into giant sparklers. Get out of the sodding way. So yeah, it's busy. The king's suddenly coming back, and they've got all this stuff to organise, as well as other plot stuff going on. Lynn and then Rachael.
Yeah, well, isn't this all over the shop? We start. I was going to make this observation when as soon as we paused, that we start with this really, I think, just really lovely soliloquy and song from Polina. It's really just heartbreaking. The man I love is dead, and I'm, my shame, and I've betrayed God, but I hope God will forgive me, and I wish my grief would kill me. It's just like, oh, you're breaking my heart over here. And then you end with this really sad song. It's so sad. And he's not really dead, but we're not sure that that's going to work out. Yeah, is something bad going to happen before the truth comes out and everything works out? So, it starts out like manipulating our emotions all over the place about feeling so sad for Polina's plight, and then we have like giant sparklers a little while later. So
It's really interesting way opening, yes, as we say, with this sort of stillness and sadness, and then it's like the world crashes in. And I think that works really well. I mean, we've gone through what is listed here as seven scenes in relatively quick succession. But it's all one unit of action pretty much. From the moment the messenger comes on, says the king's coming, someone said in the chat, Phallax with a clipboard, just trying to get everything together, and just going, who's next? No, you stand over there. Just wait.
Palm pilot.
Yeah, Rachael, I saw a hand. Other thoughts?
No, Rosko's speech about Phallax, just how he's still how he's just so different from Promos. We know he's a corrupt guy, but it seems like he's genuinely started a relationship with Lamia, or, there's some genuine affection there, that her servant's walking out and he's they're so lovey-dovey, it makes me want to vomit. So I think that was out of left field, and I didn't expect it from this character Phallax, but it genuinely made me say all out loud, and with all the rest of the stuff that's going on in this play.
Yeah, last time we saw Lamia and Phallax was yesterday. I mean, it was all the way back in Act 3, and it's like the from what was a very cynical introduction seems to have turned into something quite different. And yeah, maybe what's going on here? We need more data. We will get more data when Lamia will appear. I didn't realise she was reappearing this session. She is reappearing this session. Rachael, you'll be reading Lamia later. Only for a speech. Any other brief thoughts before we go into the final sort of sections for today? Helen.
Yeah, we hear that Lamia has fallen for Phallax, which is unfortunate if you're in the business of negotiable affection. But has Phallax fallen for Lamia? I mean, he's favouring her. He's giving her a lot of countenance. He's also using her house for the overflow of guests for this show.
Yeah, busy times.
But I mean, has he actually fallen for her?
Good
or is
question.
he just using her?
Oh, yeah, well, that's the question I think we should ask for everybody, really. How cynical is this play at times, and what's it doing with us? It seems to be playing every angle all of the time. Alan?
I see the relationship between Phallax and Lamia as being very transactional. They're both after it. They're both involved in this for what they perceive they can get out of it. She's getting protection. He's getting a bit of on the side, and some home comforts. And I suspect that both are deeply, deeply cynical about the whole thing.
But Lamia's in love. We've just had this, she's
Get-
fallen, and from someone who is cynical themselves. So, from a source who's saying this, going, she's lost her edge, man.
Given her trade calling or profession, isn't that part of the role?
Well, if it was Phallax saying it, I would agree. But from the person saying it, I'm not so sure. Eric.
I was going to say that, because we haven't talked about this a lot with the. I don't know, because about the performance history of this, but then I was just wondering if Andrugio is actually doubling with someone else, which is why he doesn't appear in all these scenes, or it's just because he's been gone a long time since considering there's been all these shenanigans going on, and the tomb stuff. They've had time to build them a tomb.
I think that there's lots of really interesting questions about what the auspice of this show is, of which I have no real data. But it's a really good question about how resources are being marshalled in it. Anyway, we need to crack on with Act 1, Scene 8, as we have Corvinus the King, Cassandra, 2 councillors, some other person, a young nobleman who doesn't say anything.
Rob, I'm about to speak to myself. Just one line, though. One line.
Helen be Cassandra for a line.
Cassandra.
Sorry, I've been surprised by action. Where?
Act 1, Scene 8. Cassandra has a line, but I've thrown.
I'm there.
Cassandra, we draw near unto the town, so that I will that you from us depart, till further of our pleasure you do hear. Yet rest assured that wicked Promos shall abide such punishment as the world shall hold me just and clear thee of offence.
Dread sovereign, as you will, Cassandra goeth hence.
And exit Cassandra.
I plainly see it tends to great behoove that princes oft do veil their ears to hear the miser's plaint. For though they do appoint such as they think will justice execute, authority is such a commander, as, whereas men by office beareth sway, if they their rule by conscience measure not, the poor man's right is overcome by might. If love or hate from justice lead the judge, then money sure may overrule the case. And therefore none in judges ought to be. Thus one abuse is cause of many moe, and therefore none in judges ought to be. How rulers wrong, few tales are told the king. The reason is, their power keeps in awe such men as have great cause for to complain. If Cassandra her goods, nay, life preferred, before revenge of Promos' treachery, I had not known his detestable rape, the which he forced to save her brother's life, and furthermore Andrugio's ransom paid. I had not known be put him unto death, for when, good soul, she had this treason told. Through very shame her honour so was spoiled, she drew her knife to wound herself to death, whose poisonous plight my heart provoked to wrath at Promos' wiles, so that to use undifferency to both, even in the place where all these wrongs were none, myself am come to sit upon the cause, but see where Promos and the mayor wait, to welcome me with great solemnity, with cheerful show I shadow all the hate I bear to him for his insolency. Perhaps I may learn more of his abuse, whereby the more his punishment may be. Come, my lord, to the town, haste we apace.
Everybody says,
we are all pressed to wait upon your grace.
Scene 9, we have Promos, a mayor, 3 aldermen in red gowns with a sword bearer, awaits the king's coming. Promos makes his brief oration.
Renowned king, lo here your faithful subjects pressed to show the loyal duty which in right they to your highness owe. Your presence cheers all sorts of us. Yet 10 times more we joy, you think us stored, our warning short, for to receive a Roy. Our will is such as shall supply, I trust, in us all want, and where goodwill the welcome gives, provision seld is scant. No, this is all, our further zeal in ready deeds shall show. And first, good dread king, I render you the, no, this is all, yea, for us all, that I in words bestow, your majesty our further zeal in ready deeds shall know. And first, dread king, I render you the sword of justice here, which as your lieutenant I trust uprightly I did bear.
The king delivers the sword to one of his council.
Promos, the good report of your good government I hear, or at the least, the good conceit that toward you I bear, to encourage you the more, in justice to persevere, is the chief cause. I did address my progress hither.
I thank your highness.
And the mayor presents the king with a fair purse.
Renowned king, our ready wills to show, in your behalf our goods, nay lives to spend. In all our names I freely here bestow on your highness this purse, unto this end to post your most royal majesty and all our wealth, thereto bound by duty.
Your great good wills and gifts with thanks I take, but keep you still your goods to do you good. It is enough, and all that I do crave. If needs compels for your and our safety, that you impart your proffers large perform, and for this time as outward shows make proof, it is enough, and all that I desire, that your hearts and tongues alike bid me welcome.
Lord preserve,
Lord preserve your majesty.
Majesty.
5 or 6, the one half men, the other women, run unto the music, singing on some stage erected from the ground. During the first part of the song, the king feigneth to talk sadly with some of his council. The king's gentleman usher forwards, my lords. I don't quite know what's going on there.
Is that the choir?
I think the king's gentleman usher is the one who speaks.
Yeah, king's gentleman usher. Forwards, my lords, he says, perhaps. They all go out leisurably while the rest of the song is made an end. So we'll just briefly pause there, very briefly, because we've still got quite a bit to do. But yes, we have this sort of civic display going on. We've got swords being passed. The king has, we know the king's on message with Cassandra before all this happens. And yes, we have all this display, and the mayor, of course, giving the king money, which is always nice. And that's not an unknown part of this kind of civic pageantry of, yes, you want to give the king cash, because that always makes the king happy. So I don't want to linger too long here, but Helen, briefly.
Sadly is seriously, not sadly.
Oh, yes, he's having proper discussions, because, he's probably going, okay, right, just distance yourself from promise, guys. And anyone got anything they want to tell me? Anything, people? Anyway, so yes, and we got music, and we've got potentially all of those things that were discussed earlier, depending on how much wherewithal this production has. I hope for dancing green men and for lots of wolves and other animals. But we need to move on to Act 2 to get through what we need to get through today. Part 2, Act 2, Scene 1, Lamia, the courtesan. Rachael taking a good drink there to make sure that she's ready.
The match goes hard, which raiseth no man's gain. The virtue rare, that none to vice may rest. Ensure the law that made me late complain, allureth me many a wanton guest. Dames of my trade shut up their shops for fear, their stuff proved contra forma statuti. Then I, which licensed am to sell fine ware, am like to be well customed purdy. And now time serves, least custom after fail, at highest rate, my toys I value most. Let me alone to set my toys to sail. Young rufflers I, in faith, will serve of trust. Who weighs me not, him will I feign to love. Who loves me once is limed to my hest. My colours some, and some shall wear my glove, and he my heart whose payment likes me best. And here at hand are customers I trow. These are the friends of Phallax, my sweet friend. Now will I go and set my wares to show, but let them laugh, that winneth in the end.
And exit Lamia. Enter Apio and Bruno, two gentlemen strangers with Rosko, as we go into Act 2, Scene 2.
Come on, good friend. Where dwells Lady Lamia?
Even by, sir.
Well then, go thy way. Show who sent us and what our meaning is, lest she, not knowing us, do take amiss that thus boldly we come to visit her.
No bolder than welcome, I warrant you, sir.
Well, thy message do.
I go.
And exit. Four women bravely apparelled, sitting, singing in Lamia's window, with wrought smocks and calls in their hands, as if they were a-working. And the choir.
If
Go.
pleasure be...
Yes, carry on, choir.
If pleasure be treasure,
Hark!
the golden world is here. The golden world's here. Refuse you or choose you, but welcome who draws near, but welcome who draws near.
They be the muses, sure.
Nay, sirens lure.
And
Here lives the...
And the choir continues. Rachael do indeed continue being all of the choir. This is in theory broken into parts of between the four of them, but life's too short.
Here lives delight, here dies despite. Desire here hath his will, here love's relief destroyeth grief, which careful hearts doth kill.
Attend them still.
That as you will.
Here wish and will doth care destroy. Lay here your fill, we are not coy, which breeds much ill. We purge annoy, our lives here still we lead in joy. If pleasure be treasure, the golden world is here, the golden world is here. Refuse you or choose you, but welcome who comes near, but welcome who comes near. Wantons draw near, taste of our cheer. Our cates are fine and sweet, come be not coy. To work your joy, we fall will at your feet.
Ah, good kind worms.
Hark!
Lo, here we be, goodwill which move. We live, you see, for your behoof. Come we agree to let you prove, without a fee, the fruits of love. If pleasure be treasure, the golden world is here, etc.
Upon this large warrant we may venture. The door opens alone. Come, let us enter.
Agreed.
Yes, who could refuse such a wonderful, tantalising invitation? Enter at this point a sergeant bearing a mace, another officer with a paper like a proclamation, and with them the crier.
Crier, make a noise.
Oyez, oyez, oyez!
All manner of persons here present,
All manner of persons here present,
be silent upon pain of imprisonment.
be silent on pain of imprisonment.
And the officer reads the proclamation. We will assume the crier does not repeat.
Corvinus, the high and mighty king of Hungary and Bohemia, unto all his loving subjects of Julio sendeth greeting, and therewithal giveth knowledge of his princely favour towards every sort of them. First, if any person, officer or other, hath wronged any of his true subjects by the corruption of bribes, affecting or not favouring of the person, through usury, extortion, wrong imprisonment, or with any other unjust practice, His Majesty wills the party so grieved to repair to Sir Ulrico, one of His Highness Privy Council, who, finding his or their injuries, is commanded to certify them and their proof unto the King's Majesty, where incontinently he will order the controversy to the release of the party grieved and the punishment of their offenders. Further, if any of his faithful subjects can charge any person, officer, or other with any notable or heinous offence as treason, murder, sacrilege, sedition, or with any such notorious crime, for the safety of his royal person, benefit and quiet of his realm and subjects, on Friday next, His most excellent Majesty, with the advice of his honourable council, will in open court sit to hear and determine all such offences. Therefore, he straitly charges all and every of his subjects that know any such heinous offenders, one on the forenamed day, that he present both the offender and his fault. Dated at his royal court in Julio, the 6th of February. God save the King!
And exit. And we'll just briefly pause there. We don't have too long to pause there. But yeah, I just briefly, I think it's very important that we just talk about the wonder that was the advertising campaign of Lamia. I mean, Lamia really knows how to set out a stall. It's a brilliant piece of work that works incredibly well. Alan,
it's a straight lift
Rachael.
out of Chaucer, Wife of Bath. Ween women in this matter having strange matter, having strange fantasy.
Well, it's just as an advertising strategy. It works. Play here your fill. We are not coy. Come on in. And it's and then it's sort of interrupted by this crier who's so the plot sort of enters and sort of shouts at you. Rachael, you.
No, I because this is taking place during like a pageant. I wonder if there would be some parallel that people from the period would recognize, that people, shopkeepers who are around during these parades, their business must be booming. If they're like just a regular person like a tailor or not specialized in this sort of thing. And I wonder if this is supposed to be a parody of that, of just people selling sweets or something to, just catching the street business that this brings to London. And
Yes, this Hungarian town is remarkably like London in so many ways.
Yes.
Lois.
Yes, I'm wondering if they actually show a lot of these things, because I think certainly George Peele's father had a lot of props that were used for Lord Mayor's shows. This sounds like a kind of attempt to recreate a royal entry somewhere or other. I mean, we don't know the exact date of this, if it was even put on, but it looks to me as if they're trying to allude to something like that.
Yeah, whether it's it does seem to be the way it's written about some of those stage directions does suggest that it is an outdoor thing as well, that it's not indoors, that because they're talking about when they were talking about a stage earlier off the ground, and it's just sort of wondering the way the space is functioning. I'm not saying that as a definite thing, but there were just a couple of the elements of just going, it might work quite well in that context, in some sort of site-specific locality that it's given. Eric?
I was going to say that the song by, the choir in this context just reminded me of, because we were talking about Oliver Twist earlier before we came on air, because I asked the question about a vocabulary thing. And it just reminded me of that kind of who will buy kind of element.
Slightly different wares.
Depends on the interpretation.
Lamia coming in and, it seems that the nature of various people have shut up their shops for fear, but she licensed Am to sell fine ware. Is this shop a front? She's selling China, which starts throwing us forward 100 years to sort of Restoration drama and China things. It's quite interesting. And also, she's still talking about the who loves me once. He my heart whose payment likes me best. But Phallax is her sweet friend. So it's still ambiguous as to is she continuing her practice while also being quite smitten or not. We don't have enough evidence yet. Lois, I think I saw a hand.
Yeah, well, I just was struck by the fact that the king speaks blank verse. I mean, unrhymed verse, which nobody else in the play does. It's quite curious, especially as this seems to be an early play. I mean, they weren't using that much of it.
It's the in thing in the 1570s, I suppose. Some people have used it. Trying it on for size. We've got one tiny little bit we're going to do. We're actually going to stop a little earlier than planned, but we're going to do the next scene because I think it will be useful to get it out the way. Part 2, Act 2, Scene 4. We have a speech from Rosko.
See how we're croft. We thought the king for pleasure came to visit us, when to his pain and our plagues, I fear he bestows his leisure, to hear the wrongs of such as will complain of any man. But the sport is to see officers, one look of another, I at Lord Promise at me, the lawyers at the Shreve and Mayor, they gaze as much on the ruling lawyer, but to be plain, the clearest of all, Pacarl sing, to hear the grievous call, Pacavi sing, to hear the grievous call against usury, bribery and baratting, suborning, extortion and bullstring. Some faults are heard, some by proclamation stay before the king to be heard on Friday. Yet I have scaped and hope to go scot-free, but so or no, while leisure serves me, to have my answers fresh if I be called. Of merry mates I have a meeting stalled, to whom my senses to refresh I wend, who gets a pace as merrily may spend.
And exit Rosko. So it's interesting, we have this almost instantaneous response to what's going on here. And yeah, we thought the king was here for one thing, and oh no, it's everybody's looking at each other. Everyone's looking at the thing, and he's hoping to get away scot-free. He's hoping to get away. We shall see. Will Rosko escape from whatever things he's been up to? So we're into extra time, so it's into sort of final thoughts. We've been here for a play and a bit. We have one more session. Again, I apologise for we are missing a scene this session. We haven't had the scene with Cassandra being given her brother's head, inverted commas. That was a scene we missed. But otherwise, we have had most of the material so far. So what are we think? What are our thoughts about this play? About what this play is doing? It's throwing so many things at us. Helen, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, I thought as we started that this play was going to sort of it was a slight thing that didn't actually go very far. It was a little bit of morality. And I was totally and completely wrong. There's a great deal going on. There are an enormous number of well-written characters. And it's a perfectly tremendous play, but I don't think it's two plays. I think it's one overgrown play.
Well, I think that's it's the way it's talked. It talks about itself as two plays, but we don't think of Fulgence and Lucrece or Nature as two plays. They're just in two parts. So I think you're right. It's one play. We've just passed the interval. How long that interval is entirely up to the producer. But yeah, I too had some reservations about the text before we started it, but they have so far been largely lifted. I am. It's not an unproblematic text, and so I had lots and lots of fears, which so far haven't been fully realised. But as ever, there's a question of whether it sticks the landing or not. Helen, over to Eric. Eric, any final thoughts?
I just had to, one of those wait, what? Yeah, moments, but I don't know if that actually works because I don't know anything about history, or art history actually. Because we were talking in the chat about like the sort of, Rachael brought back the whole thing about the blue cloth and stuff, and it got me thinking. And what other places do we see this kind of imagery? And obviously, the thing that came to mind was paintings. And I was thinking, if you stage this according to like Titian paintings, paintings by Titian, you could frame it like scene by scene because there are so many that are similar. Like there's one that is called the Entombment, the other one is like sort of I don't know the rest of them, but I remember specifically one about John the Baptist with his head on a platter, which is the one that came to mind. Yeah, I don't know.
Rachael, any final thoughts?
No, I love Eric's idea, what he just came in with there. That's awesome. Also, this is a huge play, and there's so many. There's so much good stuff for actors here. It gives you a lot. I don't know, for the first and the second part, maybe the way they used to do all-day movies, you could have a part in the morning, people go out for lunch, and then they come back for the second part. But I'm interested in where this is going.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not much. I'm just kind of at the point where I kind of don't know where to have it. The first session, it was, there was so much, it was creepy and grim, and the kind of that passage, that part kind of leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. And then a bunch of different stuff going on here, some funny stuff, some pageantry, some very moving stuff. So yeah, how's it all going to come together? The curse of the final session, I think, it's kind of inevitable that we're going to be let down a little. I mean, the best way for one of the tensions to resolve is for Promos to marry Cassandra, and we don't really want that either. So there's that would legitimize her position, but then she'd be married to Promos. So I don't think there's any way we can find the ending entirely satisfying, but I'm super curious about how it works out.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed gear quite considerably in the second session from the first. I mean, we had one bit of light relief in the first session, which was the two brokers' men. We've had much more comic pieces in the second session, and I suspect part of it is to try and keep the audience on side. It's going to be interesting to see how the mood shifts over the remaining third of the piece.
Lois, any final thoughts?
Well, it's a very rich and interesting play, and it seems to be trying to do quite a lot of different things. The scenes are so disjointed in a way. I mean, there'll be a great scene for one person or for two or three people, and then there'll be a completely different scene for another couple of people. I wonder if it was designed to be rehearsed in, separate sections and just put together at the end with somebody frantically telling them who was meant to be going on now, because it just has that sort of feel to it. And then there's this whole very interesting bit of everybody running around getting ready for a spectacular procession and or some kind of welcome to the king. And it would be really interesting to know just how much of that we're supposed to get. We're obviously meant to get some of it, at least the musical part. I think it was probably, if it was put on, I would have thought it would have been quite successful. And And one can understand why people later might have thought it would be a good idea to, rewrite it and get rid of all the rhyme, which had gone out of fashion, and, see what could be made of it.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just speaking to what everyone said already, I really am enjoying the play immensely. I really like the gender politics in it. I like the problematic nature of the play. I think that makes it quite compelling and it keeps it quite engaging. I think a lot of the characters are really well drawn. I think the play works as a part one, part two. It doesn't lag. And I think that that's due in some part to the music and the singing, and then in other parts to the comedic scenes. They are, I echo what Lois said, they are a little bit, the play is a little bit disjointed because we have such gravity with like the rape of Cassandra and the kind of problematic relationship between Andrugio and Polina, but then contrasted with these really comedic experiences with like Dalia and Grimball, which do jar a little. But I think in performance that a director could maybe iron some of those jarring things out with entrances and exits and how the play is performed.
You mentioned earlier you were just talking about some of the introductory stuff. Did you want to bring any of that into play now, as we have a few minutes left?
I was just looking at the introduction and thought that we were going to discuss it, but maybe we'll bring that out tomorrow.
That's the plan. Though I've now got to cram in a missing scene that we didn't do today. I was going to throw details in of some of the stuff about what George sort of says about this text. And sort of actually raises a lot of the questions that we're sort of raising naturally, and it's quite interesting on that level. Yes, but if you have a specific thing you wanted to say, then feel free to throw it in now.
No, there was quite a lot of preamble. So I was thinking it's quite important, but I thought that maybe it was intended to sell the text.
It's really interesting, actually. Yeah, sometimes the sort of author's comments at the beginning are there to not so much sell the text, but sometimes to settle scores or potential criticisms of the text. I mean, we read last time the printer to the reader section, which is sort of basically saying it's going to be really hard for you to really get what this play is about because you haven't seen it. You've only read it. But also what Whetstone writes himself is really asking that question about, the almost the use of comedy throughout a text like this, which has a serious subject matter as well, and questions of tone that we've already been drawing up ourselves. So the author seemed cognizant of that. It's a really interesting question whether he bit off more than he could chew even then. That isn't us projecting things onto the text. Potentially is that actually that's something the author was aware of at the time. Possibly, he said. Any other final thoughts from the room? I think I've gone around everyone, but if anyone's got any additional things, we've got a minute to go. Rachael.
For the wares thing, I wonder. I know I'm saying something about this blue cloth that doesn't, might be blown out of proportion, but I wonder if you could have them, the wares being, cloth, and them, like come here type thing, or if you could make them have like more expensive looking clothes than I guess the characters who in the morality play type, aren't as well off, have the cheaper woad blue dye or whatever.
I'm really interested in what the choir is doing there. Just the possibility that, on the surface, as if they were working. So look, we are here sewing or whatever we do, and then you see a lovely, lovely boy, come in, come join us. Sexy times happen. Shh, don't tell anyone. It's fine. That it's all a front, and it's not quite explicitly stated what kind of front Lamia might be running here. Before, the a bawdy house was, open and clear, whereas this one seems to be, pulls the shutters down and suddenly we're a respectable business again. Speakeasy style. I'm just saying words now. I'm going to stop. It's been quite a traumatic session for me. On just a pragmatic note, this is what happens when I substitute a play last minute because of the numbers available in the room. We weren't supposed to do this for at least another week, and you can tell. But on that note, thanks to all the readers for all the dancing that we've done today. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Play here your fill. We are not coy.